Welcome to What's Up Wednesday, where we come to you every single Wednesday to talk about fishing, to talk about science, and to talk about how those two things can come together and how you can get involved in fishing research and collecting fishing data. My name is Michael Consul from the Canadian Fishing Network, and it is my pleasure to welcome you every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, to What's Up Wednesday. Every single Wednesday, we have special guests from the scientific community. Today, we have two amazing gentlemen. Let me introduce you to them right now. We have Danny and Sean. Hey, Danny. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, Michael.
So let's just get some introductions out of the way. I hear you are both in Washington right now. Danny, who is Danny Garrett, and what are you doing in Washington?
Great to be here, Michael. My name is Danny Garrett. I'm with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife out of Region 1, which covers the northeastern part of Washington. I'm based out of our regional office in Spokane, and I've been with the agency since 2010, so coming on 12 years now.
Awesome. And Sean, you're from BC, but why are you all the way in Washington?
Yeah, well, took the truck down from Prince George and took I think it was about 15 hours to drive from home. But got here in Spokane last night and just getting set up to work with Danny on this tournament and also in time for the American Fisheries Society annual conference that's taking place here.
Can you tell us, if no one has ever heard of that conference, can you tell us what that conference is all about?
Sure. So the American Fisheries Society is probably one of the largest scientific fisheries organizations in the world. And it's been around, I think, this is the 152nd year, and each year they get together and they bring together fisheries researchers to have talks on the wide range of fisheries science that are going on. And about 3 years ago, I started introducing this idea of angler-engaged citizen science through some of the talks, as well as starting some symposium at the conference. And so this will be the third symposium that we hold on angler engagement. And it's just all the various ways that anglers and fisheries scientists work together to achieve scientific outcomes or management outcomes.
Amazing. And hopefully we're going to have a live What's Up Wednesday at the conference in the next couple of weeks, which will be awesome. Danny, how did you and Sean get connected?
I actually got in touch with Sean through my supervisor, who found out about Sean coming to the conference and wanting to partner with the Department of Fish and Wildlife on this tagging project. And being a tournament bass angler myself and a warm water biologist, I was just super excited. This has never been done in Washington. To my knowledge, it's kind of a partnership. And, you know, we're always looking at ways of gathering data with anglers. You know, there's only a handful of biologists. We only have so much time to go out there in the water and collect data. So it's a really powerful tool. So I was intrigued right away when he told me about it. And I just couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams that it would have worked out as well as it has. So I've been pretty impressed with how much data we've collected so far. So we're excited about it.
And I know you're excited too, Sean. Every time you talk about the Newman Lake bass tournament, your eyes light up. Why is that?
Well, this is because it's just one of the many new ways we can start practicing science through tournaments. And so for the longest time, I've been thinking we should have a tagging tournament to do a population estimate of a lake where, and we'll get into some of the specifics later, but it was just, the timing was perfect. We know the American Fisheries Society conference was taking place end of August. And so I got introduced to Danny through the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we set this up so that we could run the tagging tournament, do the population estimate right before. And so we've got some really cool results we can share with you guys now.
Cool. So just to make sure everyone knows what we're talking about, we know what bass tournaments are, and some of us know what tagging is, but what is a tagging tournament? What is a tagging tournament, and how does it actually work?
I guess maybe at this point, let's start with just what tagging is, and maybe I just pass it on to Danny, and Danny can sort of walk through what it's involved with tagging fish, and then I can pick up on how that ties in with the tournament.
Yeah, so you know, tagging there's a lot of different things you can do with tagging. Obviously, you can put in internal transmitters and you can track movements of fish. But the Floyd tags we used for this tournament are commonly used to just try to get a handle on the size of a population. So we're doing a creel survey up at Curlew Lake right now, where we tagged 466 yellow perch. And by monitoring the tag returns coming back to the creel, or coming back to our creel technician that's collecting this data, we can determine the exploitation rate on those fish, how many fish are being removed from the population, and then estimate the size of the population over time. We also sometimes will put out tags and then go in and sample fish with electrofishing or nets as another way of getting those tags returned to us, and a way of estimating the size of the population. So it's a very powerful tool, and it's been used for many, many years by fisheries biologists across the country to collect population data.
How many fish do you have to tag so that your data is accurate and represents the population?
Well, that is the ultimate question, right? It obviously depends on the size of the population, and we had no way of knowing what the size of this population was going into the tournament. We tagged 216 bass over 2 days. Obviously, there's time constraints, other things that play into this. We were hoping to tag at least 200, so I was very happy to tag 200. But now that we're seeing the size of this population, if I was to do this again, I would likely try to tag more like 500 fish. It would maybe tighten up our population estimate, because I think the population in Newman is a little bit larger than I previously thought. But it's all dependent on the statistics and how large that population is to begin with. And the larger the population is, the more tags you need to put out there to get a reliable estimate.
In terms of tagging, how long does that tag actually stay with the fish? Is it there for the lifetime of the fish? Does it have a certain lifespan? Does it fall off sometimes? How do you know that stuff?
Yeah, well, you have to dive into the literature and look at it species by species. Certain species like catfish really shed those tags pretty readily, and that's why they use other tags like Carlin dangler tags, which is actually a metal wires that go into the back of catfish, because Floy tags don't work. With largemouth bass, for the length of this tournament, I wouldn't think very many tags have been shed, but a year or two from now, a lot of those tags are going to get, rubbed off or expelled by the fish. A lot of times they'll grow tissue around them. Sometimes they'll stay in for the life of the fish, but I'd have to go back into the literature on largemouth bass Floy tagging and to give you a precise, estimate. But I'm sure some of that work's been done. But for our purposes, for a 3-week tournament, most of those fish are not going to shed those tags. So it works well for a short period of time when you go right back in and try to retrieve those tags, within a month's time.
I see. And if I catch a fish that is tagged, will I know right away, or do I have to look in a certain location, or is it just right there in front of me?
They're super obvious. They are right in the back of the fish on the left side, right below the dorsal fin. We put these tags in, insert them between the pterygophores, which are the bones that support the dorsal spine, and they anchor in there really well. And they're fluorescent. You can't really miss it. As soon as you're handling the fish, it pops right out. In fact, they're so obvious that people are seeing tagged fish in Curlew just by looking down in the water 8-10 feet, and they can see the tagged fish swimming around. So they're very visible. So even if you didn't know exactly where to look for it, they'd be very hard to miss.
We have a comment here from Bill Landry from Saskatchewan, and he's saying that I've seen 25-year-plus old sturgeon tags.
Well, there you go. Cool. They can stay in a long time.
The last question about tags is, as an angler, you catch a tagged fish, what are you supposed to do? Is there a certain thing that you're supposed to do?
Well, Sean can speak about the way the tournament works, but in this situation, we were taking, they have to take a picture of every fish they tag to qualify for the tournament. And because they're photographing the left side of that fish, the tag is very visible. So we automatically know whether it's a tagged fish or not. Other cases, you might put a phone number on that tag that they have to call if it's over a longer period of time. But because this is mobile app based and they're taking pictures, it makes this really easy for us to monitor those tag returns as people catch them.
So let's go into that question then, Sean. Then now that we know what tagging is and the details about tagging, what is a tagging tournament?
So essentially, it's just modifying the rules of the tournament and also the prize structure, because you want to incentivize it properly. But you modify it so it's not just the longest fish, and we want every single fish reported. So we modify the structure and the prizing so that there's random draws. There's also most fish caught categories. And every time you have a tagged fish reported, you need to record a note in the comments section, or there's actually a tag field where you can put the number in. And then that way we can track the number of fish caught to the number of tagged fish caught. And it's that ratio that is really key to estimating the population. And we've also got our catch team. So our catch team reviews every catch, so we can see and ensure that the tag was reported correctly.
Amazing. So the question I have is, now that you're running this tournament, you tagged 216 fish. What sort of data are you getting from the tournament through this new format?
Cool. Well, I guess this is where I can probably do some screen sharing and just sort of walk people through sort of what it is. So what you're seeing here is basically a dashboard that we built. It's just a way to help us visualize the data. So just zoom in quickly to the area. So Spokane is right on the border with Washington and Idaho. So you can see the lake coming into focus there. I can't remember. What is it, about 1,000 acres, Danny?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, so it's about 1,000-acre lake, not big, and not very deep. I mean, but looks like about 30 feet max depth. And so basically the stats on the left here tells you basically high level what's happening in the tournament. So we have 60 anglers reporting, 298 total trips, 41 zero trips, which is a really important stat, not necessarily for this tournament, but certainly when we're tracking catch rates, we want to know the zeros. There's been 1,178 fish caught over 1,153 hours with an average catch rate of 1.13. So that gives you sort of a high level of what's happened since the 1st of August. And the tournament's actually still ongoing. And as you can see, there's no secret spots given away here. That stuff we all keep private. But this is the sort of information that we want to be sharing with the researchers, because this is the valuable information. So let's jump into the length analysis. And so one of the first things we want to do is we want to see what the length distribution looks like. And I'll just show you basically this graph here shows you the length of the bass being caught. And you can see there's two distinct age classes there. There's basically a younger age class, and well, I guess there's quite a bit of fill between them, the two, but two strong age classes there. Now, one of the things we like to do is see how similar the data sets are. Like, are we sampling from the same population? I know we're on the same lake, but you always want to be testing these sorts of things. So when you look at the electrofishing, which is what Danny went out and did, and we've got a short video about that. This is the length of his bass that he caught, and there were 214 we've got recorded here. And then you can see how well our distribution compares, and it lines up pretty well. For the science geeks in the audience, basically, we do what's called a Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. And essentially this says how tight together is the distribution. Is it the same population or isn't it? Certainly the data shows that it is the same population. Now, here's where the estimate comes in. So what we do is we use a modified, I think it's a Chapman variation of Peterson. And what we've done, and this is unique, normally you just get an output on what you think the actual population is. But what we've done is we've traced it day by day, every day, doing an estimate based on the number of returns. And as you can see, over the first 5 days, it went up quite a bit and was a little shaky. And then it looked like it was starting to stabilize from day 5 to day 9. But after day 10, we haven't had as many tag returns being reported. So the population is still growing up. And you can see with that dark blue line, and the light shaded area is your standard error. That's what the fudge factor is from this specific population estimate. So essentially at this moment, we've got 10,039 fish estimated, still a fairly big margin of error. But as Danny was saying, if we had more tagged fish, we could probably tighten that margin of error up a fair bit. And we've had 24 tags reported, and I've got 218 fish tagged here on our data set. So I don't know, Danny, if you wanted to sort of add anything to that, or if
No, I think you summed it up nicely. The discrepancy between 216 and 218 might be two of the fish were smallmouth. That's the thing. We tagged 2 smallmouth bass, and so that might be used for the estimate versus what we saw on the other spreadsheet.
Quick question. I don't know who wants to field it, but what does it mean if you're catching a bunch of fish and none of them are tagged versus catching a whole bunch of fish and there's a ton that are coming in that are tagged? Does that influence data or the way you look at the data by any chance?
Well, I'll jump in real quick and say if you're getting a lot of tagged fish, then your estimate of the population will be quite small, because it means that of the 218 fish represented a larger proportion of the population. The fact that we keep going up and up and up and our standard error isn't tightening indicates to me that this population is quite large, and tagging 218 made it trickier to get a tight estimate, because there's so many fish in this lake. We would have needed more tags out there to tighten that up. But we'll see. We still have 1 week left, and more fish will be caught. So it'll be interesting to track this over the next week.
Yeah, very interesting. It sounds like I love bass fishing. Sounds like a lake I need to go to.
I think that's my cue to share the who's in the lead, eh?
Yeah.
So here's the Bass Battles web page, and we've got basically Anthony Swat has just taken. It was Cletus up until I think just a couple days ago.
So this is the biggest
so Anthony
fish
Swat's
caught.
got a 21.4 inch. Yeah, so this is the leaderboard that we have for largemouth. We got 21.4 inch in the lead, 19.8 in second, and 19.5 tied for. There's 2 for third place. You can also look at other things. We got the most large mouth bass.
Oh,
and since we've also got smallmouth, there's no prizes for this, but we put up the smallmouth leaderboards as well. So
can I see that big bass? 21 something inches.
yeah, let's see. I think it's up here. There we go.
Woo!
That's the beast.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it looks like an ocean fish.
Danny, did you think there was bass that big in Newman Lake?
I would have thought there was a few swimming around, but to be honest, when we're electrofishing, we rarely get a bass over 5 pounds. These bigger ones tend to hang out a little deeper, and deeper than about 4 or 5 feet, we just can't electrofish very effectively. So it's only through tournament data that I get an idea of the size potential. And I would have thought there was an 8 to 10 pound bass out there. Our state record is over 12 from Western Washington, probably eating a lot of stock trout. We do have a hard time getting over that 10 pound mark, but I'd love to know the weight of that fish, because it looks up there.
Look at the choppers. Look at that bottom lip. That is massive. How much do you think this fish weighs?
Gosh, if I just had to throw a dart, I would say it's hard for me to say 10, because it's so hard to achieve 10. We do see 10 pounders in Eastern Washington, but I would say 9 to 10 pounds based off the length. Yeah.
Beauty.
Wow.
You guys say so? 9 to 10?
I don't know what my biggest bass is 6.5, so I don't know what like a 7, 8, 9, 10 bass
Not
looks
one
like.
that big either.
I haven't either. I've caught a 7, so 10 is just out of this world to me. But I bet there's a few folks out there that'll have some opinions.
You talked about electrofishing. Is this a good time to show how data is collected other than through tagging?
Yeah, absolutely. We can. Are you going to talk about the video?
Yeah, we can show the video. Before I show the video, how much value do you see, like, being able to compare the data from your other collection services and this tournament?
Well, to be honest, when we do like a warm water survey, we'll electrofish and we'll put out gill nets and pike nets. But to be honest, electrofishing is just the best gear for capturing all the different sizes of bass. And it's also non-lethal. So occasionally we'll kill a bass or two in a gill net, not very often, because we do that in the spring and fall when the water temperatures are way down and their metabolism is slower, so they can survive in a net for a long time. But electrofishing, we just stun them, put them in the tank, throw them right back in the water. They're no worse for wear. But in a warm water survey, we would get a very nice representative size structure, a length frequency histogram that shows all the different sizes, but we'd have no clue of how many bass were in that lake. So getting a population estimate is kind of next level for us. It usually requires a lot of resources to do that on a single lake, and we manage a lot of lakes with very few biologists. So this level of detail is just not something we're used to working with. But maybe in the future, we'll be doing a lot more of this type of stuff, and maybe we'll be able to manage a little bit more intensively on certain lakes because of mobile apps. So I'm excited that we're able to do this. Yeah.
All right, so let's watch this video. I've heard of electrofishing, but it was one of those things that you keep hearing about, but you actually don't know how it happens or how it works. So I'm interested to watch this video. Check it out, folks.
Hi, my name is Danny Garrett with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. I'm here tonight with Ashley Caldwell, Tyler Parsons, behind the camera Stacy Lehman, and we're out here tagging bass for the Bass Battles tournament. It's going to run from the 1st of August through the 19th here at Newman Lake. And if you're interested in the tournament, you should go to Angler's Atlas, download the mobile app, and enter the tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun. As you can see here in the tank, we have shocked up a lot of nice bass in less than an hour. From the north end of Newman Lake, we're kind of shocking and tagging fish all over the lake. A lot of these fish are 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. We got a few fish that are probably close to 4, but just a really healthy bass fishery. And hopefully with these tag returns, the more people enter and catch these fish and report them, we can generate a population estimate through the Angler's Atlas app and get an idea of how many bass are in Newman Lake. So it's kind of a cool citizen science project. And a great cooperation between WDFW and Angler's Atlas. So stay tuned. 390.
That's limit. It's a giant. Tag one.
This is the size I catch. Oh, that's 4, 5, 6.
Go get him.
That is cool.
Cool.
So you're netting the fish, and they're just floating on top because they've been electrified. Like, can you explain how that works?
Yeah, it's interesting because all these different species respond so differently to electricity. Trout, for example, are very hard. They will hit that electrical field and dart from left to right. Large bass, the bigger the bass, the harder they get hit by the electricity, because it's all about the electricity passing through the water in their body. So if a big bass gets between the electrodes in the boat, and one is the anode, one is the cathode, creating a field between the droppers in the front of the boat and the booms that stick out front, they'll get stunned pretty good and flop right over, and they're very easy to net. But the smaller bass, they'll sometimes, you'll have to kind of chase after them with the net. So the smaller the fish, the harder they are to net. And depending on the species, like a tiger muskie, we do stock tiger muskie, a sterile cross between the true muskie and northern pike. They can torpedo the boat. They can jump out of the water. They can do all kinds of crazy things when they hit the electricity. So it's pretty exciting. It's pretty fun. It's probably the funnest thing we get to do as electrofish. But like I said, it's just an invaluable tool for us to be able to not hurt the fish, get our hands on them, put some tags in, measure them, do whatever we need to do, and then release them back in the water. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I'll just add in, Michael.
Yeah.
I was trained on electrofishing with a backpack. So basically, you have a big battery on the back, and you have a cathode and anode that you drag behind you. So a little bit different setup, but there's many ways you can electrocute the fish.
Amazing. We have about 5 minutes left, Sean. Any other data you want to share before we jump into our last question?
I think that's probably, I think I'm done on the data.
Okay. So last question for you then, Danny, is what sort of data, other than what Sean shared, like insights or aha moments, are you getting from the data you're getting from the Bass Battles tournament? And was it what you expected? Are you surprised? Just some general thoughts about what you're seeing so far.
You know, it was difficult for me to have an expectation of how many bass were in the lake because, like I said, we talked about doing tag recapture projects and getting an idea of how many bass are in the lake, and we just never put out the resources to do this. So I would have guessed there was maybe 10,000 bass, but that's a lot. That's a lot of bass, and we're talking about bass that are 8 inches and larger. So this doesn't include all the juveniles, which obviously there's tens and it might be 10,000 of those or more. So I really was kind of naive. So just getting, even though it's rough, 10,000 plus or minus 4,000, just knowing that is enlightening. And that will give me an idea going into future mobile app tournaments or other lakes. It gives me a starting point for what I can expect in a fairly productive lake, how many bass are out there. The other thing I'd say is the smallmouth fishery. We electrofish in the lily pad areas of the bays. And when there's, rocky banks that are steep with lots of docks, traditional smallmouth habitat, we don't electrofish as well. So smallmouth can be trickier to sample. And I had no idea that there was this many smallmouth of all these different sizes in Newman until we did this tournament. So those are the two things that jumped right out, is the proportion of smallmouth, the fact that there's multiple year classes, that they're spawning successfully in that lake, and just having a rough idea of how many bass are in that water is really going to help us in the future to develop more ideas about what kind of information we want to collect. And just overall, I think we have a hard time connecting with our angler base. A lot of times we do our work, they go and fish tournaments. To be able to partner on something like this is just, there's a lot of intangibles there. It's hugely valuable. I think bass anglers really appreciated this opportunity. So a lot of positives to take away from this. And I couldn't be more happy with how things have gone.
Amazing. Sean, any last words about what makes you smile about this event?
Yeah. Oh, I just love how it's the anglers that are solving these challenges, right? We don't have access to this information except from the anglers, and it's just another illustration of how the anglers can actually solve some really important scientific questions. So yeah, and I think there's also really an appetite, and we'll see. We do our awards ceremony on Saturday at the lake, and we'll see how many anglers are interested in not only getting the awards, but interested in the science as well. And I'm really curious to see how many are really going to queue in and really spend some time exploring how the science works, because when you're out there fishing, you know exactly what you're going through to catch the fish. So it's not like it's going to be a classroom. It's going to be an actual experience you can connect with. So I'm hopeful that that's another one of the key benefits we can get out of this.
Amazing. Now, for those who are interested in either bass battles or tournaments on the MyCatch app, where do people go, Sean?
Oh, yeah, just anglersatlas.com/tournaments. That's the place where all our tournaments are listed. And if anyone's wanting to get something like this set up, reach out. We can set up tournaments very rapidly. And if there's a specific scientific objective you're in, or if you just want to have fun for a tournament, let us know. We can get the tournament set up real easy.
Any last comments, Danny, before we end off on What's Up Wednesday?
No, I just say for any folks that happen to be listening in that are in the area and want to come out between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. at the Newman Lake public boat launch this Saturday. And of course, the award ceremony for those that can make it will be at noon. I don't think we're going to have a lot of folks from AFS. We'll see, Sean, but we'd love to have some anglers stop by and ask questions and participate. So hopefully a few folks can make it out for that.
Amazing. Awesome. So thank you, Sean. Thank you, Danny. And thank you to all you watching either live or the recording, which will be up on YouTube, as well as the MyCatch Anglers Atlas Facebook page and the Canadian Fishing Network Facebook page. But join us every single Wednesday for What's Up Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, where we bring to you fishing, science, and how those two things can be bridged together. So until next Wednesday, thanks a lot. Tight lines. Remember, take your kid out fishing and stay safe.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Thanks, Sean.